So there was one other announcement. I apologize, Mick. Jim North has a procedure tomorrow. He's getting ready for. So if we could remember him in the closing prayer and remember him tomorrow when he has that. Okay, open up your Bibles, if you would, to Genesis chapter 37. Genesis 37. I gotta get myself over there. We're moving into a new section in our study of the book of Genesis. It's the last section. It starts off there in verse 1. Now Jacob lived in the land where his father had sojourned in the land of Canaan. These are the records of the generations of Jacob. And that phrase, as we mentioned at the very beginning when we did an introduction to the book of Genesis, that phrase is a sign for the readers that this is starting a new section. A lot of times we read that, we expect to have a chronological list of all those of the family, but it doesn't do that. It goes right into the life of Joseph, and that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a new section within the line of Jacob that follows Joseph and his story from this point to the end of the book of Genesis. And so it continues there in verse 2. Joseph was 17 years of age when pasturing the flock with his brothers, while he was still a youth, along with the sons of Baliah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought back a bad report about them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons because he was the son of his old age. And he made him a varied colored tunic. His brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, and so they hated him and could not speak to him on friendly terms. So a couple of things pop out at me in that opening phrase, and it really sets the tone of what's going to happen. Moses, when he wrote this, let it be known pretty quickly, there is great tension between the older brothers and Joseph. But before we get to that, Joseph was Jacob's favorite son of his old age. Is he the youngest son? Not even close. Benjamin is a lot younger, but for some reason he's labeled as this. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the memory that comes along with Benjamin, knowing that his favorite wife died at birth of Benjamin. But it's Joseph that he latches on. Maybe he sees him as the firstborn of his favorite wife, and he views it that way. Whatever it might be, he's really latched on to Joseph, makes him that varied colored tunic. Some say it's a long robe or long sleeved robe. They're not sure about the translation on that. But there is tension between Joseph and the other brothers for multiple reasons. One, because of the favoritism that Jacob shows to Joseph, and Joseph brings a bad report to his father about his brothers. And of course, that didn't sit well with the brothers. And there's some debate about what that means. That Hebrew wording there for bad report is it can be translated, and it is mostly translated as malicious whispering. It's almost as if he came with the intent of getting his brothers in trouble, is the idea, but it doesn't have to be translated that way. But I want you to know that Joseph isn't going to be perfect. He always seems to be doing the right thing, but maybe he's not always perfect. But he is young. Maybe it surely did create tension. And we're going to see him do some things that if he thought it through just a little bit, he shouldn't have done or said the things he said in this opening passage. And so his brothers hated him, and they could not speak to him on friendly terms. They could not talk to him in a peaceable way. So when they talked to him, they did not try to just pretend. They wouldn't talk to him friendly. They wouldn't talk to him in a peaceable way. They did not like him. Conversations did not go well between Joseph and his older brothers, is what that passage is saying there. Verse 5. Then Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, "Please listen to this dream which I have had. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf rose up and also stood erect. And behold, your sheaves gathered around and bowed down to my sheaf." Then his brothers said to him, "Are you actually going to reign over us? Or are you really going to rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Now he had still another dream, and related it to his brothers, and said, Lo, I have had still another dream. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing down to me. He related it to his father and to his brothers. And his father rebuked him and said to him, What is this dream you have had? Shall I and your mother and your brothers actually come to bow ourselves down before you to the ground? His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the saying in mind. So, he's 17 years old. I could give him a pass for relating the first dream, but maybe he should have kept that second one to himself. Does he know that that is creating friction between him and his brothers? They made it known to him, the first dream. Why would he relate the dream to his brothers and to his father in the second one? Well, how did people view dreams back then? They were signs. They thought they would project the future. And so that's probably going on in the minds of the brothers. And I also will come back to that when we get to the section where they want to kill him. They don't want that to come true. I think they believe there's a good chance that can come true. They're worried about that, so they want to make sure that doesn't happen. There's no way they're going to let this Joseph reign over them. So they're going to put an end to it. They hate him. Also, all piles into that. But another thing that's interesting about this dream, how many other dreams does Joseph come in contact with throughout his life? Do you remember? Well, there's two more that he has later on. That's right. They always come in pairs, don't they? And that's interesting because hold your spot here. And did I write down where this is located? Yeah, turn to chapter 41, verse 32. This is him talking to Pharaoh, and he says this, Now as for the repeating of the dream, Pharaoh, to Pharaoh twice, it means that the matter is determined by God, and God will quickly bring it about. It's going to come quickly. God is going to bring it about. So when you have the two dreams, and Joseph is making it clear to Pharaoh, it's going to come quickly. So we have two dreams. It's going to come about from God, and it's going to come quickly. At least the beginning of it is going to bring this about. And I always find it interesting that you get the two pairs all throughout this story, three sets. And so he gives these two dreams. In the first dream, he relates it just to his brothers, and it's just the sheaves are bowing down to him. The other brothers, of course, they get angry. They understand what this dream means. Surely Joseph gets what it means, and so he tells it to them. It just surprises me that he would do it. And then a second time, he doesn't. Not just this time. The brothers are the stars, and then the father and the mother are the sun and the moon, and they're all bowing down to him. And of course, Jacob rebukes him about it, but it's pretty clear what it means. Now, could it be that Joseph is simply innocent, thinking, look, I've had these dreams, these have got to be from God? You think that actually means what it seems like it means? Or do you think he might have a bit of a smile on his face saying, you'd be mad at me now, but one day I'm going to be ruling over you? I don't know. But I think it's interesting that he does relay it to them, and they get upset. But let's go back and talk about the moon bowing down that represents the mother, and Jacob emphasizes, well, I and your mother bow down to you. Who is the mother? The stepmom? I think it's Leah too. Some say it's probably Zilpah, the maid, probably took over as far as raising him. But I don't think so. I think it's Leah has taken the spot of mother in the household. And I think that's who Jacob is referring to as well. But we can only guess at that, but I think that's the best guess, yes.
Joseph had a predisposition towards authority and power, and that's why he was so successful in those adverse situations, and he rose to the top.
Almost a natural leader, yeah. Oh, yeah, I think you're right. I think he was given a talent, a gift from God to lead.
In control of Egypt is a pretty big jump.
That's pretty big. And we can see all the things that prepared him and got him ready for that as the years go by. And we see that, and I'm glad you emphasized that. We're going to see that here in a moment because Jacob sends him to keep an eye on the brothers, but we're going to look at that here in a second, or actually right now. Verses 12 and following. Then his brothers went to pasture their father's flock in Shechem. Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers pasturing the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them." And he said to them, "I will go." Then he said to him, "Go now and see about the welfare of your brothers and the welfare of the flock, and bring word back to me." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. A man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field, and the man asked him, "What are you looking for?" He said, "I am looking for my brothers. Please tell me where they are pasturing the flock." Then the man said, "They have moved from here, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. All right, let's pull up a map here. Let me do this for those online. Here's a map. You can see Hebron. That's where they're at right there off the south part of Israel. And so he sends him to Shechem, 50 miles north. He doesn't find them there, so he goes up to Dothan, 20 more miles. A lot of questions come up from this passage. We'll deal with why they went pasturing in that's far away here in a moment. But do you think Joseph knew his brothers hated him? They couldn't talk peaceably with them. Yes, absolutely. Do you think Jacob knew the brothers hated him? Okay, now hold that thought. Now the brothers, and Jacob knows, they're in Shechem pasturing the flock. What happened in Shechem? The daughter was right there, and the sons of Jacob killed everyone. Do you think it's safe for them to go up there? Now, I don't know how much time's passed, not much, but maybe time's passed, that people who were after them are gone, or maybe, I don't know, but surprises me that they would go to Shechem. There weren't any men left in Shechem, that's true. But there are the surrounding towns. They would know they were there with the sheep. But it's interesting that they would go up there. 50 miles. That's pretty far to pasture your sheep. The best guess that I've seen out there is that it's summertime. The rains in the Hebron area, down in the valley, have tapered off. They've eaten what they can, and so they're going to go up to the hill country to pasture and feed the flock up there. Of course, it's 50 miles. 50 miles. Apparently, they couldn't find enough for the flock, and so they keep going another 20 miles to Dothan. That's the best guess of what's going on. Now, let's go back to Jacob and Joseph knowing how much these brothers hate them. Jacob knows the kind of mindset of his sons, of what Reuben did with one of his wives, concubines, of what they did in Shechem, killing all those people. They did it pretty easily. Would you think, if you were the dad, it would be safe for Joseph to go up to Shechem alone to find them? No way. Why would he do that? I don't know. The text doesn't tell us, doesn't give us the motives, but it baffles the mind for me. Why would Jacob do that? Surely he sees. Surely he knows. Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. But I find it interesting that these things are occurring. And of course, when he tells Joseph to do it, I'll do it. And that goes to what Mick's saying. He's got it built into him to naturally lead. His dad tells him to do something, he's going to do it, and he goes. he heads up there, and he's all alone. We see that in the text as he gets up there, and he's wandering around the field there in Shechem. That's Joseph, probably trying to figure out where in the world. I'm looking for signs of something. Where did my brothers in the flock go? And lo and behold, he comes across a stranger. And the stranger tells him, what are you doing? What are you looking for? Well, I'm trying to find my brothers with the flock. Oh, I overheard that they went north to Dothan. I thought that has always struck me as strange that he came across this stranger. I think it's got to be providence that God sent this person. But I also think it's ironic. It is not safe to be wandering around. We know what happened to the sister when she was out wandering around by herself. There are robbers and bad people out there. But we see that Joseph is safer in the middle of the field by himself with a stranger than he is with his brothers. And so the stranger tells him they're up north in Dothan, and off he goes another 20 miles to find his brothers. I think he must be wearing the tunic his father gave him. I mean, why not? It's vari-colored, it's beautiful, he's probably wearing it because they see him from a distance and they know exactly who it is when he's on his way, because they probably see that tunic that he's wearing. Any comments, questions, or insights you want to share, Larry?
I think it may have been some sort of test.
The stranger may have been an angel?
No, the fact that Jacob sent
Oh.
Joseph some sort of test. Now, I don't know what kind of test or who was testing who, but you think about it, kind of like a preparation.
Oh, yeah,
I don't
good.
know, it doesn't make any sense to me that Jacob would just have sent him knowing the dangers and knowing what his other sons might do. Could have even been a test for them to see how the sons were going to react.
Yeah, you actually spawned a thought in my mind, but Mick?
I don't think he thought that the other sons would actually do violence to Joseph. And then when they told him what happened to Joseph, he believed it.
Yeah,
He never questioned as to, some
that's a good point.
nefarious activity took place. He believed that, he was killed by a beast.
And that brings me to what Larry placed in my mind, that maybe he is trying to get Joseph ready to take over. He's going to take over the operation for him, and he's using him as that right-hand man to oversee things, which could be why the brothers hate him so much. And so, in his mind, he's just sitting him out there, getting him ready and prepared to be the one who takes over when he passes on from this life. And so he's not thinking that the brothers would harm him. They're thinking that they're going to do what I tell them to do. It could be that.
And that happened.
And that happened.
Yes.
Yep, that's right. Okay, good comments. We're fleshing these things out. Verses, make sure I didn't skip something. Okay, verses 18 and following. When they saw him from a distance, and before he came close to them, they plotted against him to put him to death. They said to one another, "Here comes this dreamer. Now then, come and let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits, and we will say, a wild beast devoured him. Then let us see what will become of his dreams." But Reuben heard this and rescued him out of their hands and said, "Let us not take his life." Reuben further said to them, "Shed no blood, throw him into this pit that is in the wilderness, but do not lay hands on him, that he might rescue him out of their hands and to restore him to his father." So it came about, when Joseph reached his brothers, that they stripped Joseph of his tunic and the vari-colored tunic, he was wearing it, that was on him, and they took him and threw him into the pit. Now the pit was empty without any water in it. Then they sat down to eat a meal. Actually, let's stop there for a second. Okay. So they do see him. They see that cloak on him, tunic. They immediately first thought in their mind is, here's an opportunity. Let's kill him. And their reasoning for it. They didn't grab hold of all those other reasons they hated him. They grabbed hold of the fact that he's a dreamer. The fact that he is going to rule over us. That's what they latched onto. I think that's bothered them. I think they actually believe that those dreams really mean something. Of course, we know they did, but they did too. They thought that's something real there. He's had two. Let's kill him, and then let's see what happens with those dreams. Because they thought it's going to happen. And of course, in their life, I think they may have saw that it was happening. The way Jacob was treating Joseph and using him to look onto the brothers. He brought bad report about them. Jacob sending to him up there to see how things are going. Why wasn't he with them in the beginning? Because he's the one in charge. And so you see that. So they want to get rid of him. But then Reuben, he is the oldest, says, no, let's not do this. And let's just throw him in the pit and leave him there. Now, the pit is actually a cistern. I should have got a drawing. Think of it like a vase. It's got a narrow top, and it widens out. And what they would do is they would dig these out, use stone and plaster inside of it so that it would hold water. So when there was great rains, it would catch a lot of water and would hold it. And then they could cover up the top hole, portion of it with a big stone, and hold water in there. They could pull it up out for the flocks. It was empty. So maybe there's not much rain going on. Maybe that's why they had to go so far north to find some grasslands for their flocks. And so they would throw him in there. There's no escaping a cistern. You're not getting out of that without a rope. And so they throw him in there with the intention of probably just leaving him to die. We know Reuben's thoughts. He's going to come and get him out of there, and return him to his father later on. And so they take the cloak off of him, and down he goes. I think my thing just crashed there. Make sure. Sorry, make sure the video didn't just crash on me. All right. And so, verse 25. Then they sat down to eat a meal, and as they raised their eyes and looked, behold, a caravan of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead with their camels bearing aromatic gum and balm and myrrh on their way to bring them down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, what profit is it for us to kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and not lay our hands on him, for he is our brother, our own flesh. And his brothers listened to him. Then some Midianite traders passed by, so they pulled him up and lifted Joseph out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. Thus they brought Joseph into Egypt. Now, first thing I want to hit on is the Ishmaelites, Midianites. We see this later on in the book of Judges and in Joshua. The Ishmaelites and the Midianites co-married quite a bit, and so those two names are interchangeable between the two groups. I think it's interesting that Moses does that here in the writing of this section, but it's the same group, so don't let that confuse you. Judah, there's a couple of possibilities as to motive here. It could be he says, well, why kill him? Let's make some money. Or it could be, and more likely, as he's sitting there and you're eating, you're thinking about your own brother. You probably hear his crying out for help or for them not to do this thing. And it's probably pinching his conscience a little bit. So he says, he is our brother. He is our flesh and blood. Let's not kill him and shed his blood. Let's sell him. So that's another possibility that could be going on with Judah. One of the two. It's either greed, maybe a bit of both. He feels sorry for his brother. So they see these Ishmaelites, they pull him out, and they sell him for the same price as you would sell a male slave at that day and age. And imagine how Joseph felt. Imagine you're in his place. Your own brothers have thrown you in the pit. You know they hate you. And now you're in dire situation, but a rope comes down the pit. And you're thinking, okay, good, this is over. When I get out of here, I get to go home to Dad. They pull him up, and as they're pulling him out of that cistern, out of that pit, he can see those Ishmaelite traders. He probably sees the changing of money. And then they hand that rope over to them. They tie him up, and off they carry him as he looks behind him, and his brothers walk away, and he knows what just happened. he got sold into slavery. And so from Dothan all the way down to Egypt. That's that road we commented about in the book of Exodus about when Moses was leaving with the Israelites out of Egypt. Why didn't they take this road up to Israel? It was easier. But they didn't. They go down and they take that long trek the other way. They don't take that road. So this is the route these traders are going to take. But it's a caravan. They're bringing a lot of herbs. Now the wording here, we really don't know what these herbs are, to be honest. The wording in the Hebrew is hard to know what it was they were bringing. But they're bringing spices and things that are costly from a foreign land, and they're bringing it to Egypt. So they're not going to be bringing one little jar. They probably have a lot. They probably have carts full of stuff they're bringing down there to make a lot of money, so they're not moving quickly. Just a long way for Joseph to every night sleeping under the stars, knowing that not that far away is his dad. And you got to wonder if that he's thinking, surely when my dad hears what happened, he's going to come and buy me back and take me home. Surely that's what I would be thinking. And we know, not going to happen, is it? His father doesn't know he was sold into slavery. In verse 29, now Reuben returned to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. So he tore his garments. He returned to his brothers and said, the boy is not there. As for me, where am I to go? So they took Joseph's tunic and slaughtered a male goat and dipped the tunic in the blood. And they sent the varicolored tunic and brought it to their father and said, we found this. Please examine it to see whether it is your son's tunic or not. Then he examined it and said, it is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces. So Jacob tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his loins and mourned for his son many days. Then all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, surely I will go down to Sheol in mourning for my son. So his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, Pharaoh's officer, the captain of the bodyguard. Okay. Let's talk about Reuben for a moment. Why did Reuben want to rescue him out of the pit? I think that's exactly it. I think that's exactly it. He's the oldest. And he knows how his father feels about him, and he knows who's going to take the biggest blame. You think he's already gotten himself into enough trouble? Yeah. He's lost a lot in his life already. He doesn't want to lose any more. Now, where was he? He was probably off looking into the sheep, making sure they were okay while all this took place. And then when he comes back, he's gone. He's like, well, now what am I going to do? And so they go back to the original plan. They dip the tunic into the blood. They take it and they horribly, evilly, they take it and they give it to their dad. Soaked in blood. Examine this. See if this is your son's. Another bit of irony here. Isn't this similar to what Jacob did to his dad? I am your son Esau. Fill my heart. Fill the back of my neck. Taste my stew. Same thing happened, didn't it? It's interesting how we see these connections.
Interesting that it sounds like Judah and the brothers never really clued Reuben was part of the decision.
No, he was away.
You're not even sure that they actually ever filled him in
About,
after he saw he was gone.
yep.
We don't know for sure if they ever filled him in on what they did.
And later on, he has not forgotten. Remember when they were in jail and didn't I tell you not to lay a hand on the boy? And boy, he was upset. Did I see a hand up? Nope. So yeah, he was not happy. And for good reason. And so they give the tunic to their dad, and he recognizes it belonged to Jacob. And like you were saying earlier, Mick, he did not even consider that his sons would do such a detestable thing. And So it goes. And so he believes Joseph is dead and no one is going to come looking for him. But you have to think that he is thinking that he is thinking his dad is going to come get him. And I the more I study it, the more I believe that is true. I've thought this for several years, and every time I look at it, when we get into seeing what Joseph's, all the opportunities he had to go home, he never does it. Or all the opportunities he had to warn his father of the impending famine, he never warns him. Because he doesn't care about that anymore. He has a new life. And we'll get into that as we go through the next chapters. Of course, next chapter, we got a little bit of an excursus, but we'll look at that next week. Any other comments or questions on the passage? Interesting story.
It's kind of interesting that the only two brothers that are mentioned here are Reuben and Judah. And we skip over Simeon and Levi,
Yep.
just like somebody skipped over them when the decision was made for the Lord to come through Judah's line.
That's right.
I know how we got past Levi because he was the priestly tribe. But how we got past Simeon, I don't know.
Wasn't it Simeon and Levi that killed everyone in Shechem? I have to go back. I think that was.
Might be.
Pretty sure that's it. I will have to look now because I'm wondering. Treachery of Jacob's sons. Now their words seemed reasonable. It came about on the third day. Simon and Levi. Yep, verse 25. Simon and Levi go and take care of the town. That's why they got skipped over. I'm sorry?
These men, don't you think they were kind of lazy?
The brothers?
Maybe that's the reason,
We got a bad report.
right.
They did get a bad report. And that could be why Jacob said, go check on those lazy brothers of yours, see how the sheep are doing. I don't know.
And then they liked having that money, I'm sure, when they traded him.
That's true. Well, yeah, that's true. Speculation like we've been doing, but I think that makes sense. That would fit a lot of motive there, Gary.
I think they would have had to have told him.
Oh, Reuben? Perhaps.
Just because he's gonna want to know where.
But think about this though, he came back. Where is Joseph? You know, what am I doing? Well, we sold him to the Ishmaelites. Really? I can go get him. You can go get him and return him to his father, and that would go much better for him if he returned him. I think he would probably go buy him back, Reuben.
So if they told him it was probably later.
And remember, Reuben told his brother while they were in jail in Egypt, did I not tell you not to lay a hand on the boy? And he believed it was coming back on him. I don't know if they told, we don't know, but we don't know if Reuben knew what happened to Joseph or not. So, but that's good to wonder about. So.
The more we've talked about this, the more I'm leaning towards that idea that this was all a preparation for Joseph.
Well, yeah, definitely providence involved in this.
Maybe for Jacob, but certainly for things in the future.
Well, and I have that in my my notes for later on, that everything that happened, both good and bad, God used for good, and to bring about His purpose. Like him running into that stranger in the field who tells him where the if he hadn't run into that stranger, he would have never known they went to Dothan. He probably would have gone home and would have been just fine. But he ran into the stranger. He went to Dothan, and now he's in Egypt. And that needed to happen, didn't it? So that to bring about all those people to Egypt, bring Israel to Egypt. So, yeah, there's definitely, the whole story is to get us to understand and see the providence of God. And it's very clear, very obvious. A lot of it, a little not as obvious, but a lot of it is. And then when you get to the story of Esther, the same thing, except not as many details on showing us the providence of God. You have to dig a little deeper for it. I think these passages are there to help us see those kind of things, of how God can work beyond, outside of miracles and outside of angels, to bring about his will for his people. Okay, well, we're going to close up there with a song. Get my phone back on here.